Alrighty, welcome back for part 3. I'm going to be looking at doing lights and darks on this painting of the couple dancing, and my goal is to discover a pan pastel palette for using for portraits. And you'll see I've listed 3 there with a line through permanent red. These are all what I called the tints of pan pastel, so it's the mid-tone just with some white added to tone it down, and you can make your own tints with pan pastel, just add white, but personally I've found it easier to just buy the pans. I did flash up my wrist support or forearm support on the paper is glassine paper, and oh yeah, there we go, I've got all the details coming up. So I'm working on pastel matte, fairly large size, 500 by 700. I think that's about A2 size. It's quite a nice size for doing people. You're able to get more detail in their faces. But the glassine paper. So, glassine is acid free, and I use it for storing pastels. So you put a sheet of glassine between the work, and then you can lay something else on top and it won't smudge the work. And because I'm doing this flat on my desk, I just needed that extra care while doing this. So the three tints that I'm using in this episode, permanent red, I put a cross through it or a line through it because it's not one that I decided to keep in my portrait palette that I'm making up. You kind of, in your head, you go, well, yes, I've got permanent reds. I'm trying to show the blood underneath the skin, and so it makes sense to have a tint of that. But when I applied it, it just looked wrong, and in our minds sometimes we imagine colours or skin tones to be certain colours, like pink. So you go, oh, I'll put that on and that'll make sense. Whereas when you look at my skin tones at the moment that we've built up over the last couple of episodes, there's green and blue and yellow and red. And you go, oh, that's not very realistic. But in fact, as we build up the painting, it becomes much more realistic, and you need those strong colours under the skin because they're holding the colours of your veins and your blood, and they're reflecting colours back out as well of what they're seeing. So permanent red was a no-go, but the diary lied yellow, I used that as a tint. Previously I've used a Hansa yellow, which has got a much more greener tinge to it, but I just really liked the diary lied, and just using the edge of the sponge knife, you get some just nice strokes going on. I did edit a bit out because I was getting a bit of pastel dust collecting, so I just shook the board off. And the final tint I'm using is burnt sienna, so the very light shade, and I thought that would work better for his hands. So she's more in the dairy lied. I say dairy lied, it's diary lied. So she's the yellow and he's the sienna. And you're just sort of feeling your way around the picture, just looking for the lights. I'm trying to stay as much as I can to use the same sort of colour It's not too much of a problem now that I'm into my lights, because I'm just looking for the different shades of light, with my yellow being the absolute brightest highlight. And but I'm trying to cover the whole skin at once. Some of the mistakes I've made in my pastel journey so far have been to just do sections of skin. Like I'll concentrate so much on a face, and but I won't do the neck. And then when it's time to do the neck, I've forgotten what colours I've used for the face, or I've started on a hand and spent a whole day working on a hand, and then next time I come to do the painting, I work on another bit, and then it's time to do the arm, and again I've forgotten what colours I use for the hand. And so it seems to work better if you can just progress the same colour right across the picture to get that harmony. And where we're really going with the lights and darks is to build up the contrasts. We've got our colour tones in, we can see the shape of the muscles, and now we want to, what's the right word? We just extenuate, is that right word? I'm not sure. Just to make them stand out more. And some artists will go with pastels dark to light, and others will go light to dark, and I decided on this particular painting to go light first and dark later, because the shadows tend to drop down below, and if you're not careful with your darks, you can very quickly mute the whole picture, and then it's, whoops, sorry about that, and then it's a bit of a disaster, because you've got to try and recover. But as we go through, you'll see it's just a little bit of dabbing, and that's another thing. When using the pan pastel, don't try and get a whole wad of it and press it in. It's just light touches. Okay, so my wife's just arrived home, so I'll just press pause. There we go. Just needed to say hello and say, oh, I'm just doing some recording. So we've done the light tones layer. We got through a grey layer, and yep, there's the colours we're going to be using for next. We've gone grey. We did a green layer. We did mid-tones. We've dropped in some lights, and now we're going to put in the darks. It doesn't take very long to do the darks. We're just going to accentuate those the shadows that are already there. So a couple of these colours I've already used in the palette: the permanent green, neutral grey, violet. I've got doing his shirt in violet. Her dress will be in permanent red, and we've got ultramarine blue. Now these are called extra dark, so they're as dark as they go for pan pastels. I think the next ones, although they're sometimes referred to as shades, they might also just be called dark. But so that there's no sort of confusion, these are called extra darks. And so the palette that I've built up so far, we're 3 shades of grey, 3 shades of green, the mid-tones I had 4 different colours, so that's 10 altogether, and 2 lights and 2 extra darks, so we're up to 14 colours, if my math is right. And so that's not very much. Now that's, in fact, it's minuscule for pastel painting. I was mentioning this in the last episode. It's really hard once you start doing pastels to stop buying pastels. There's so many of them, and you just want them all, because those you just use them as different shades, and it makes it so much easier. And they're just beautiful. Holding those pigments in your hand, they're just beautiful. Pan pastel just pulls you back and says, hey, here's what you've got. What can you do with these? And so it becomes so much more budget friendly for someone beginning in doing pastel art, or just wanting to give it a crack. And they're very different from pastel sticks, but you can create some beautiful looking artwork with them, and they're very vibrant, very low mess. So it looks like we've come to the end of this particular section. We're going to colour the hair in next, the eyes, lips, and just adjust the colours as we go. So we'll probably wrap it up in the next episode. Yep, there we go. That's where we've got to so far. So I hope you enjoy creating, and I look forward to seeing you again in the final episode. Thanks again.